themselves very vulnerable when a guy like Donald Trump gets into office, and a fear on their part. But for a moment, let's just talk about this because, I hadn't contemplated, frankly, a Trump victory. And for people like yourself, I mean, I feel this too in terms of the way that I look at this program. I'm on email lists with people who work in policy and have been writing up policy papers, ranging from, expansion of transgender rights to, fixing the Affordable Care Act. And they basically realized like all the work they've been doing on this for years is meaningless now. You must have had some similar experience where all of the plans that you had anticipated are radically different now.
That is another true fact. So, we've talked numerous times the last couple of years about, a fairly thorough game plan that, we at the Progressive Change Campaign Committee had in collaboration with a lot of others, which was meticulously moving big, progressive Elizabeth Warren style ideas like debt-free college, like expand Social Security, like Wall Street reform, and the public option more recently down the court into the center of the mainstream conversation, onto the presidential, ticket and platform, so that we could have a progressive governing moment in 2017. And, winning the election, the presidential election, was about to be the opening firing shot of the race. And there was going to be a lot of, nothing was a foregone conclusion, but we were getting positioned to have that possibility of a moment. And now I think we all need to just acknowledge that the next several years of our lives will be dramatically different. And, one thing I would also kind of stipulate as a fact is that nobody's got a game plan right now. I think probably people like yourself, people like us, have a leg up because we are tethered to a set of principles and kind of a fighting mentality that allows us to kind of not be as shell-shocked in this moment as raw political actors who only operate as political tacticians and just had their entire boat knocked over. But still, everybody is starting from scratch and having very nascent conversations. I can say that after talking to numerous Senate offices in the last couple of days, and a lot of friends in the progressive community and the Democratic community. So the good news is the progressives can have a real trajectory-changing impact right now in this horrible world we're about to enter. And people like yourself, honestly, are big thought partners in this. And I really would invite your listeners to tweet at both of us. Mine is at Adam Green with any thoughts or ideas they have, because again, it's not singing in the wind here. That's the wrong analogy. It's not something in the wind here. It is really, this is a moment that we can have an impact. The one thing I would share beyond that is that after the 2014 elections, we actually saw what's possible in this type of moment. When everybody was shell-shocked, I think we've talked about this, the Progressive Change Institute did this month-long process called the Big Ideas Project, asking the public and lots of progressives to put ideas into the mix and allow the public to vote on them. At the time, we got 32 members of Congress, including Chuck Schumer, including Elizabeth Warren, including 30 others, to commit to looking at the top ideas that bubble to the top. We then took those ideas, and before we kind of invoked those meetings, we did a very expensive, very thorough poll with a lot of ideas voted on by the public. And that's where things like debt-free college, expand Social Security, a lot of bread and butter, kitchen table issues rose to the top, leading to a lot of the kind of intellectual victories we've had, and political victories we've had the past couple of years, with some of our ideas moving right into the mainstream. So I think we're, again, based on conversations the last couple of days, we're in that moment again where there is not this, this kind of elite go-away mentality towards progressives, but more, somebody's looking for direction, and progressives have a chance to lead. So I'll just leave it there for now.
The point being that the establishment of the Democratic Party is certainly on their heels at this point. And so there's a couple of things, right? One is there are questions as to sort of what makes sense to pursue intellectually, and in terms of building ideas that exist. Because we should also say that the Republicans they do, it seems to me, a better job of having like all of these, broadly speaking, maybe more of them do this, having like, okay, we've got all these ideas on the shelf here. And part of it is because they're able to implement these on a statewide basis. And so they can, they've done all the intellectual framework for these things. And so they're ready. But I don't think that the Republicans have really fully had done any game plan here as to like what they would do politically with a Donald Trump presidency either. So there's at the very least, this is the best time to act, it seems to me, politically, broadly speaking, or just to get out of the gate quickly. And so aside from in terms of ideas, like strategically, more broadly than the idea, what particular things to push for, what are you guys thinking about, in terms of strategically, like where, I see that Move On has put out a petition and Bernie Sanders called for Keith Ellison to be the head of the DNC. Is that the first thing to get control or to get more influence with the Democratic Party leadership?
So again, with the caveat that this is all very nascent thinking, yes, I think that Keith Ellison at the head of the DNC would actually be a tangible, potential game changer for building longer-term progressive power, right? The DNC has, pretty much been the bastion of the establishment, the bastion of tactics, not strategy, sometimes useful tactics, but to, build on the work that Howard Dean started and do it in an even more ideological way. With Keith Ellison, who's the chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, and equally important is a genuine partner to progressive movement actors, right? Not just being an ideological progressive, but being a strategic movement partner is key if we really want to leverage the resources and structure of the Democratic Party, like the literal Democratic Party, to our advantage. So that would be a big one. But it's definitely not the totality of it. I mean, that's really an opening move. Some tensions that we're thinking about, I'm just calling this, for lack of a better word, the broken clock dynamic, right? Mm-hmm. Trump will accidentally be, inclined towards positions we agree with on a couple issues, right? Whether it's the TPP or, if he actually makes good on any of the kind of corporate establishment, animus that he's drummed up, along with all the other animus that he's drummed up, which is more, hateful. If there will be some tensions between Paul Ryan and Trump, if Trump is at all the way as president that he was as a candidate. And I don't think it's an accident that Paul Ryan's talking point right now, as they scurry to figure out what to do, is talking about how we will have a unified Republican government, right? That's to Paul Ryan's advantage, given that tax bills come out of the House, right? Like, the more that Republicans are talking about Republican unified government, when Paul Ryan is the genesis of Republican policies in the House, like, that benefits him. The more that there's a wedge between him and Trump, that can accidentally serve progressives. But how do we deal with that in a way that doesn't legitimize him as normal? He's not normal, right? He is a very destructive force, and this is going to be a key thing. The collective we, including the Democratic Party establishment, need to figure out. And
so let me articulate that in a different way, which is the Republicans, when Barack Obama came into office, they said, we will obstruct everything. We will never give him a win. And they held that line, even if it was Barack Obama offering them everything they ever asked for. I mean, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but, they were looking for cuts to Social Security. He put it on the table. No, just like blanket, no, we're just not going to do it. And so that's one option. The other option, like you say, is to sort of, because Barack Obama did not have both the Senate and the House control. And so the idea of, he did. I'm sorry, for the first 2 years. And so the idea of, and certainly wasn't looking towards it, in the out years, in the way that I think like people project the Republicans will hold the House and the Senate. So the dynamic's a little bit different there. And the idea of a cleave between Obama and, let's say, Nancy Pelosi or Harry Reid, not as obvious of a play, I'm guessing. But so that's just another, I'm just trying to delineate the different options of agreeing with Trump when it's something good we want. And because, and that's basically what Bernie Sanders said, right? He said, if Donald Trump proposes infrastructure, great, I'll be with him on that. Everything else he does that I don't like, we won't be.
Right.
And so, hey, it's Sam Seder. Why don't you subscribe to this channel? You can do so right over here. Subscribe.